Hello again to all subscribers and listeners of this channel. You are listening to Obsidian Radio. And today, we finally reached the very end of Attack on Titan Season 3. The very last episode of an incredibly powerful, intense, and enlightening season, Season 3. This was the incredibly impactful and very emotional episode 22 entitled The Other Side of the Wall. And Season 3 has been a huge emotional, philosophical, and intense season so far. Can't say that enough. This video will be the final review of an episode for the entire season. There will also be two more videos. A video reviewing the season in its entirety. I'm going to do that sometime later this week. As well as a bonus video where I'm going to go through the things that I noticed during the end credits. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do this. First thoughts. So my first thoughts were, damn, okay. So this is the final episode of Season 3, and we're finally seeing the resolution to the season. I'm just curious as to how the rest of the story is going to play out when one considers Erin's new, oddly calmer temperament, but totally believable. His new view on reality, his recurring memories that he's been getting in these visions, what he perceives as the new enemies, whoever they are. Where's the story going to go now? Because it looks like it's not actually going to end. It's going to continue on in some way when we look at Erin's behavior. This was a damn good episode. A very good episode that touched on so many different things in the series thus far. Pretty much a perfect, but still very finely tuned ending that went with a cliffhanger. A very finely tuned cliffhanger. Very subtle cliffhanger, but cliffhanger nonetheless. Now, as far as the plot, here's the basics of what happened. Sorry, this is going to get a little bit long, but there's a lot that went on that I want to go over. So, breaking this down into sections, so just follow me. So, this beautifully crafted episode started out with about a minute and a half of a recap of episode 21, the very last bits of episode 21. Again, we're seeing Erin Kruger tell Grisha to journey to the walls on the island. He needs to find love and start a family within the walls. Otherwise, the mission will not be completed. It is at the end of this scene that Kruger speaks about Mikasa and Armin, two people who don't exist yet, so it's impossible for him to know them, yet he somehow knows their names. Hopefully that will be cleared up sometime in the future. We cut to the intro. And immediately after the intro, we cut to the royal courtroom where the remainder of the scouts, except for Potato Girl, she's actually injured, so she's not there, but it's only 8 of them. But 8 of the 9 remaining scouts, we got Captain Pixis, Historia, and her advisors are all debating as to whether they should tell the people of the walls, tell them the truth about their past and their people's lineage. Pixis pipes up and explains that hiding the truth from the people is the same mistake that King Fritz made, and that they should not do the same. They should be better than that. Historia eventually makes the decision to go ahead and tell all the people on the island about who they really are and what has actually been going on between them and the humans in the outside world. During this conversation, Erin comes to a few realizations, and they are that he has the founding Titan power to apparently control Titans, maybe even the Titans inside the walls, probably. That one Titan in the wall that we saw in Season 1. He can activate this power only if he's touching a person of royal blood. Who, this is a little bit confusing, but they claim that that person of royal blood also has to be one of the Titan shifters. But I'm not convinced that that's confirmed yet, so I don't know. Either way, he decides to not tell anyone about this because he's frightened about what the military police or any other high-level officials might do to Historia if they knew about this power of the royal-blooded ones, or the ones with the royal bloodlines. Next, we see Hanji, Levi, and 2 other people discussing what life is like after the revelations were spread all across the populace. They lament that now, regardless of how the people respond, it's much better and preferable that the people within the walls know their truth about their own history. Next, we see the remainder of the scouts in a royal palace about to begin a ceremony with Queen Historia. But before they begin, Jean and Flock have some words for Hitch. They both speak about Marlowe and his bravery. But Flock, being the intense, emotional, but very blunt and honest person that he is, launches into a tirade about why Commander Irwin should have been chosen over Armin to survive, and how the scouts had better be honest to the new recruits in the future about what they did, what they're going to do, and why they're choosing to do what they do, why they chose to do what they did. Armin, hearing what Flock says, ultimately agrees and starts to feel bad about everyone else's initial decision to revive him. Erin tries to cheer Armin up, only up until he sees another vision, a very dark and ugly vision of what happened to one of his ancestors, you could say. The ceremony commences, and right when Erin receives his medal, he receives still another vision while Historia is touching him. We then immediately cut to a scene showing the executioner from hell sitting still on top of the wall, not in use. We then switch to the scouts riding out towards the outside of Walmaria. They witness a beautiful blue sky, birds flying, and large fields filled with grass. They also come across a small titan on all fours that apparently crawled very, very slowly towards the walls, and is still crawling there at this time as fast as it can go. Its legs seem to be disproportionately way too small for his body, despite its smaller size in general. Erin decides to leave the Titan alone, not killing it after considering the Titan a patriot. Very touching, very intense scene that I'm going to get into later. The scouts continue to ride onward until they reach the wall where the Eldians are titanized. Once they cross this to the other side, they finally see the ocean. They see the sea. The same giant body of sparkling blue salt water, larger than any other body of water that's ever been seen before. The one that Armin spoke of in his youth. They frolic, play, observe, and splash in the water in a childlike way. There's so much hope, so much wonder, and happiness in their eyes. A happiness that's never before been seen in any of these characters. All of them seem filled with joy and warmth, happiness, and a brightness. All of them except Erin. He seems to be filled with more despair as he points at more enemies, quote unquote enemies, on the other side of that ocean. And as Armin slowly lowers the seashell he was playing with, he lowers it down in both hands. It's no longer glistening or sparkling. The water has run away already. The episode closes. Lots of interesting things that I noticed. There are so many awesome things I noticed in this final episode, so let's go through them. Again, the interesting things that I noticed. 1. Flock's character is interesting. It's not the most likable to most people. I get the feeling a lot of people probably don't like him at this point in this part of the anime. But then again, I get this feeling the way he's written, he's not supposed to be likable per se. He's just the most honest, and he represents spitting straight up facts, raw facts, or his own opinions in a very honest, very real way, even if it doesn't seem to be appropriate. Which in an odd way makes him likable to me. I kind of like that type of mentality from time to time of just being blunt, being honest, calling it like it is. I see myself a little bit in his character, I would say. A lot of people will probably say that I can come across as being a little bit too honest, bluntly honest, even if it rubs the wrong way, but something about being able to be straightforward with people feels morally right to me. And I feel like Flock represents that true honesty that most people tend to despise or be afraid of. So his character is very interesting, to me at least. Maybe you don't like him, but I think he's useful for the storyline to be the way he is. 2. I find it interesting that while Erin was in the royal courtroom with Historia and the 7 other of the 8 other scouts, he somehow figured out through the Smiling Titan that the power he had was the power of the Founding Titan. And he also found out the connection that he is going to have with Historia. Yet, he decided to keep this information to himself, at least for now. Now, it was a wise move, I think. But my question is this. How did he decide to do that? Was that his own very calculated choice? Or was that influenced by the previous owners of either the Founding Titan or the Attack Titan? If you remember, back in the early episode, I think it was episode 20 or so, when Dina's first being turned into the Smiling Titan, Grisha's trying to warn the guys, hey, she's a royal blood. It's interesting that Kruger slams Grisha down and covers his mouth and doesn't let Grisha say that she's of royal blood. So it seems as if there might be something going on where the Attack Titan is doing a good job of keeping the information about the royal blood away from everybody else. So again, was that of Erin's own choice, or was that something that was influenced by his own Titan powers? I'm not sure. I'm willing to bet it could be either one. Very interesting. So did he choose that on his own, or is that something that every Attack Titan has done whenever someone's about to get too close to understanding the power that people with royal blood have? We don't know. Hopefully we'll find out later on in the story, in the series. Number 3. It's incredibly sad that right after Flock started telling some painfully honest truths to the rest of the scouts, Erin starts trying to cheer up Armin by reminding him of the conversation they had when they were younger about the sea, about the ocean. And right at the end, when he says, and I quote, "On the other side of the wall, freedom is," and he stops abruptly. And he immediately sees an image of his Aunt Faye, being eaten by Captain Gross's dogs. This seems to foreshadow Erin's temperament towards the very end of the episode. We'll speak on that a little bit later. Number 4. Erin had another blast from even more past memories, both from his father and from Frida Reese, all of which apparently were activated by Erin touching Astoria during the ceremony. Now, I have a couple questions about this. 4A. When Erin receives these memories, do they always come randomly, or do they always have to be triggered by someone or some outside stimuli, including but not limited to touching someone of royal blood? Because I noticed Erin was getting a lot more memories when they're reading the notebooks or the journals from his father. He was getting memories there too. Then he got even more memories when he was touching Astoria. So I'm wondering if that's a random thing or a trigger thing. I'm not sure. 4B. Do the memories come back more often as time goes by? So let's say he got only one major memory coming to him, for the sake of argument, once a year for a couple years. Then it comes out twice a year. Then 4 times a year. Then 8 times a year. Do the memories start mounting up like that, or does it change in any other way? Does it stay the same? I'm not sure. I'm very curious as to how that happens. Because it's been 5 years where these memories seem like they're sporadic, but in the last 1 year, it seems like he was getting more of them, that they just started to grow exponentially in terms of how often they occur. I don't know. On to the next one. 4C. Also, one thing that's been bugging me. In the very first episode of Attack on Titan, on Season 1, if you go back and look at the timeline very closely, it's at this time that Erin obviously has not received the Attack Titan yet, I think. He couldn't have, because his dad was still alive. Yes, okay. So he didn't receive the Attack Titan yet. So where were his memories and his visions coming from? You know, the very first one he had when Mikasa's leaning over him at the very beginning of the episode 1, Season 1. How did that happen when he didn't have the Attack Titan yet? He didn't have the key, didn't have any of that. His dad was still alive. So where would that memory come from? Is that something that Eldians can do in general, or I don't get it? Or is it possible, and this came to me only just recently, is it possible that if a Titan shifter has a child after they receive their own Titan powers, does it mean that their child will receive some of their memories genetically, even if that child, even before, or if that child doesn't inherit the parents' Titan powers? So again, Grisha has the Attack Titan. He didn't, obviously, in episode 1, he didn't give it to Erin yet. Can Erin somehow get memories from Grisha just because he's his son? Like, that's confusing. Because all this time, I had the feeling that he's getting these memories because he has the Attack Titan, but in episode 1, he does not have the Attack Titan yet. Yet he had that flash of those different memories, those different images, those different scenes. Also, another thing I noticed. If I'm correct, Grisha Jaeger is the absolute only Titan shifter we know of that had a child after becoming a Titan shifter. I don't think any of the other Titan shifters ever had children. At least the ones we know of so far, which I think is interesting. 4D. When it comes to the founding Titan power, the royal blood person Erin has to touch, do they specifically have to be a Titan shifter and also be in their Titan form? Or can they be anyone of royal blood, regardless of whether they're a Titan shifter or not? As far as I'm concerned, this doesn't seem to be fully confirmed, at least not to me. He and Astoria touched each other 3 different times. There was the time where her dad awakened the memory in the cave. Then there's the time where she punched him, where she was trying to release him from his restraints. Then there's the time where they touched each other's hands during the ceremony. But they were never near the walls any of those 3 times, and there were no Titans nearby. And Erin didn't scream. So if there were Titans nearby or they were near the walls and Erin screamed, would that activate the control of the founding Titan? I don't know. So that gets a little confusing. I'm not sure if they had to be royal blood or a royal blood Titan shifter. I feel like somebody needs to confirm that somehow. Number 5. So after the year-long time skip, Erin and Armin have longer hair, which I think is funny. Yet, for some reason, Mikasa looks about the same. Also, Erin with longer hair is starting to look a lot more like his dad at a certain angle, whereas up until now, to me at least, Erin looked almost exactly like his mother. He didn't really look that much like his father at all. So maybe it's something they're doing with the characteristics or the features, the design, to make him look a little bit more like his dad as he gets older, I guess. The longer hair looks nice though. Number 6. That one last Titan that Erin called a patriot. That scene was very sad, but very powerful, yet very touching all at the same time. To think that towards the end of the season 3, towards the end of the series so far, I can actually feel some compassion for a monster that we have been getting used to see as destructive and feared throughout pretty much the entirety of the series. That coming around full circle thing, that switching the way things are, making things grow and progress, is intense and very well written throughout the series as far as I'm concerned. But at least I did, I genuinely felt some type of like compassion for that Titan that was just slowly crawling his way towards the walls in a way that just seemed very beautiful yet very sad. It's weird, but very well written. Number 7. The happiness that the scouts were showing when playing in the water was a huge deal. They all seemed so innocent, so childlike, and so free. It was magical to finally see all the characters finally have some fun, laugh, and play around in a way that we've generally never seen in the series. At least not in an innocent way so far. Absolutely incredible writing. Number 8. Erin's despair. It's interesting that because Erin has these past memories of the former Titans holders within him, he apparently can see a completely different world in a way that no one else can. This is what I meant when I said interesting observation number 3. Erin seems like he can never be happy ever again because these memories are flashing into his mind, and as time goes on, he supposedly foresees what will happen. So while everyone else is finally having fun and enjoying themselves, which is a very rare thing in this series, Erin stands there absolutely silent, even solemn. Why? Because he acts as if he's aware that there is going to be another conflict awaiting them on the other side of the sea, which is actually quite depressing. Number 9. There's one final small scene that's very symbolic of what I think will happen in season 4. If one pays close attention, they'll see Armin pick up a seashell before Erin starts talking. He holds it up high in his hands as the water falls away. The water's falling away from it. It's glistening in the sunlight, while Armin is so happy that he can finally view the sea, the same sea that he spoke about for years in his childhood. The big body of salt water he's spoken about all this time. Like I said, this is before Erin starts speaking. After Erin speaks about the future enemies across the sea, Armin's face isn't showing, so we don't know what his expression is. but we do know that he's lowering the seashell. It's not glistening anymore. It's not covered in the shiny blue water. Armin, as he remains faceless in the scene, lowers the shell but keeps it in his hands. This to me symbolized a new hope, happiness, that gets quickly dashed away by some despair, but the hope for a happy future is still there to a degree, but not as potent as it was before. At least that's the way I interpreted it. Now, as far as the animation quality, the animation was completely on point throughout this entire episode. Two things that jumped out at me in the episode were, one, the CGI was used in a way that seemed like it blended more into the 2D animation really well. You could kind of see it, but it's nowhere near as blatant as in past episodes. Nearly seamless in my opinion. Number two, lots of beautiful panoramic shots of the walls, the land outside the walls, and finally the structure at the edge of the ocean, as well as the ocean itself. The way it was just glistening and shining and so well rendered, beautifully drawn, and brilliantly animated before and after all the scouts start playing in it. The best thing about the episode, one of the best things about this episode was Erin's apparent calmness and maturity when it came to a newer, more enlightened view of the Titans, their world, and the current situation. He's almost like a completely different person altogether. Very good character development. Think about the fact that ever since episode 1, all we've seen, and you can go back and check and really look at this if you really see what I'm talking about. Throughout almost the entire series, all we ever see Erin as is a very angry, very aggressive Erin. That's all we tend to see. Very few times is he smiling or happy about something. Most of the time he is pissed. Especially in season 2. Severely pissed. Right now, I'm seeing him be so rational, so calm, and so eloquent. Like when he touched that one Titan that was crawling. It's like it was kind of scary in a way, but in a very different way to see him so calm and so collected compared to his previous very furious self. Again, very well developed, very well crafted, very well put together when it comes to how this was going down. Now, as far as the worst about the episode, couldn't find anything bad about the episode at all. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, was splendid and completely on point. My favorite scene, my absolute favorite scene. A lot of people will probably go with the scene where they're in front of the ocean and they're playing in it. I actually will go with a completely different scene because of the character that's in that scene. And how that character is so different from what we saw in the very first episodes. My absolute favorite scene is the one where Erin touches the small Titan that's crawling towards the walls. When he puts his hand on his head and calls the Titan the Patriot. Why is this scene so powerful? Because it shows so many powerful things that happen in the world of theirs. In the world of Attack on Titan. One, it shows that one can gain compassion for what on the surface appears to be a giant mindless monster. When in the past, they hated these type of monsters with a passion. Two, it shows that what we call hell for us can also be hell for the other side. A hell that we don't understand because we're understandably forced or focused on our own hell. We're forced to deal with our own hell and how to survive that hell as best as we can. So when you are in your own hell, you can't even see the other hell that other people are going through, even though they may be going through a hell just as bad or even worse than what you're going through, what you're experiencing. Very interesting. Number 3, it for once showed a Titan looking helpless and weak instead of fearsome and powerful. A very, very powerful contrast. Number 4, and last but certainly not least, it showed a huge, and I mean monumental, mountainous transformation in Eren Yeager. He went from being this small boy, afraid of dying, afraid of being a slave, furious over his mother's death, sick and tired of living behind the walls, and most importantly, he wanted revenge. He wanted absolute, distinct, and intense revenge against what he thought were his enemies. He was a young boy, a young man whose blood boiled with the thirst to crush every Titan that he could find and eradicate all of them, no matter what. Now, at 16? He's older and wiser, and because of his experiences, his visions, these memories from past Titan holders, the revelations that he got from his father's journals, Erin has come around to become a more calm, intelligent, and enlightened being. He now seems to have a profound understanding when it comes to his view of the Titans and the world around him. Again, can't say this enough times. This is beautifully crafted character development, all emphasized by this one touching scene. The poor little crawling Titan. Poor little crawling Titan. As far as a 1 to 10 score, I would give this episode a 10 out of 10. I watched it up to about 3 times by now, and I can't really find anything wrong with any of the animation, the pacing, the action, the characterization, the interaction between each characters. It really did feel like a perfect and fitting end to the season. Very good writing and overall, very great storytelling. Overall summary. As far as I'm concerned, this was a very awesome, very well produced, yet solemn episode. It could have ended on a high note, but when looking at the very end and noticing Erin's facial expressions, what he said, what he felt, and how Armin reacted to it, all of this told me that their journey was not over yet. Beyond those waters looks to be another struggle, another conflict that either comes to them or they go to it. A beautiful and very powerful ending on a very awesome and well done episode that puts the ending to a very great season of one of the best animes being produced right now. At least in my opinion. Well done. Well done. And that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, share, and donate to support this channel. You all have a nice day. I'm out. Peace.